Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw us some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Nile.
And I'm Kyle, and I'm you might notice up front that I'm a little bit sick.
Well, sick.
No, Nile, no.
You got like trapped tattoo. No, not trapped. What was tapped out? You got tap out tattoos. Yeah.
Yeah, my tapped out tattoo has nothing to do with how I'm currently physically feeling.
Not the Simpsons tapped out, the phone game, but I'm talking tap out, the brand of cool
other
guy clothing.
31-year-olds like you and me will understand the right. Although you're slightly older now, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. We're not going to say how much because we're not sure if time runs linearly for everyone the same way, but
that is that is a problem that confuses me from time to time. And I look, I was trying to say that I'm a little bit on the under the weather side, on the illness side of things. So I ask that that the listeners out there forgive me if they hear any like funny noises.
Yeah, and sometimes there's this weird effect when you're sick that it sounds like there's a third person here.
Okay, that's what we're... Okay, yeah.
And so, like, throughout the episode, you might just hear some things that don't sound like Kyle, but that's Kyle's sickness.
Yeah, my illness will cause psychic interference to all who hear it. And it sounds like our good friend Jules joining the podcast. But don't be fooled, listener. She's not actually happening. Yeah. Hey, Jules.
Hey, Kyle.
Hey.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
First episode of 2024. We just finished a 3-parter.
Yes.
It seemed like a good time to bring Jules on for a bit of a silly one.
Yeah. Niall, when you leave the office after recording with me and I've put you through 3 parts about a psychic fraud, do you like take off your jacket and hat and like heave a deep sigh in front of Jules?
Loosen his tie.
Yeah, loosen your tie and say, long day at the psychic fraud office today.
Yeah.
Kyle
that's where I work is.
The boss man, Kyle, really put me through one today.
And I have a hot meal and a cold drink waiting for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I come out, Jules has found a new TikTok trend on how to open a bottle.
Yeah.
This time it was with the retracting measuring tape. This is a real thing I saw on TikTok today that I'm just bringing up because I thought it was funny. It turns out the new viral trend, or maybe not viral, maybe it just showed up for me, is opening a beer bottle by retracting a measuring tape.
I thought that maybe like trad wives were getting into bottle opening because that was the joke that I had made.
Look,
and I was like, I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, the trad wives, sorry, you're correct. I shouldn't have made that joke because the trad wives aren't allowed to use measuring tape because that's a man's tool. So
wow,
it's like
they find it confusing.
Yeah.
It's for their own safety.
That's right.
We don't.
This is not making it to trad wife TikTok. This episode.
No.
I am a little confused about the concept of trying to open a bottle with a measuring tape. Like, is it like, do you just like put the little lip of the measuring tape on the bottle and then you run as far away as you can and then you hit the button and let it go or whatever?
Just launches the bottle.
Yeah. And the bottle just smashes.
Today we're opening.
That's one way to open it.
Yeah, today we're opening bottles with our fucking measuring tape and it's just a person just fucking crashing bottles all over their floor. Which
no, I have not tried this. I was debating trying it tonight, but I haven't. It's supposedly you put the measuring tape out a ways. So the lip is at an angle, kind of running at almost like a 45 to the bottle.
Uh-huh.
And you stick it out like 2 feet from where the actual bottle cap is, and lock it. And then you put it in line. And then when you retract it,
So you seriously do like use the momentum
Yep.
of retracting
What the
it.
fuck?
That's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever
it
heard.
is. It's entirely useless and everything. But so is sabering, and sabering's fun.
What
so,
the fuck is saber?
You
Sabering is
use
where
a
you
saber.
yeah,
You
is where
cut
you use
the
a,
bottle.
right.
a saber.
That's like
the back of a saber to open champagne.
right,
bottle.
which is like one of the top ways to get into the fail army videos I've found is by
Yeah.
using a saber to open a champagne bottle.
Yeah.
So
it's that and getting scorpioned on a trampoline. Like,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, which by the way,
So-
I did see it. There was like a brief video trend that I don't know where it came from, but I saw it online where people were like tossing it's literally videos of people like tossing bottles down staircases and just seeing what ones were resilient to falling down staircase. I don't know why.
Oh no, you don't toss them, Kyle. You're
roll them.
misrepresenting the trend.
Right, I'm sorry.
You fill them with colored liquid, and then
Yeah.
you roll it down a staircase sometimes with a secret message that is activated by water, and sometimes just
Secret
to see if it
message.
lives.
Niall spends way too much time on TikTok.
Hey, look,
that's what we're learning.
What's fucked
today.
up is I really don't. This is just
you spend enough.
yeah. These
I-
things are just viral enough that I see them.
I'm not seeing people opening bottles with measuring tape. I can tell you that.
That's a new one for me. Although
Yeah.
I had to get off of TikTok when I had it because it was like I spent too much time on it and I started getting served the worst content imaginable. So I gave up that one. Although what I will say about TikTok is I seriously miss, and Jules already knows what I'm about to say. I miss the old men that I followed on there.
I was going to say, some
Yes.
people would say you started with the worst content imaginable.
No.
You trained your algorithm.
You trained your algorithm to send you like
You're right.
kind of drunk, confused old men yelling. And like,
that
He
was
loves
the
it,
good
folks.
stuff.
He loves it.
That was the good
I
stuff.
know, but that is a gateway.
Yeah.
That's
You're
so
right.
clearly a gateway
Yeah.
to bullshit.
Yeah, you're right. But I don't know what. See, that's the problem with me actually. Maybe if you two have a solution, you tell me. But
well, I do actually, because TikTok is actually required viewing for what we're talking about today.
oh Jesus. Okay.
TikTok has a fucking purpose, people. I didn't bring it up for no reason.
Wow.
It's
the
relevant.
prestige.
I'm nervous actually because my experience of the crossover with our topics and TikTok is extremely negative and part of the reason why I quit that app. So
Yeah, this one I don't think is quite as negative.
Okay.
So today, Kyle, I want to know: are you aware of the concept? Are you aware of the phenomenon known as a knot deer?
No.
So a knot deer is a
Well, I'm familiar
Possible
in a
cryptid.
certain sub community that you might call furry. I do kind of know what.
not KNOT.
Oh, okay.
NOT.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's a different thing, I guess.
Yeah. Not.
Do deers have knots?
I don't
I
think
don't know,
so.
actually. I haven't looked that deep into it, you know?
I think that's like a canine thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
you know what?
dogs,
You're right.
right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So, yeah. So in this case, we're talking about knot deer, and this is a Okay, so this is supposedly an Appalachian creature. This is a thing that supposedly has existed in the Appalachians for hundreds of years, or at least a while. Origin is a little nebulous to some degree, depending on where you look. There is a whole thing with this that we'll get into a little later, but this is kind of what you will see on the surface level of the knot deer phenomenon, is that it is an Appalachian kind of critter that is this kind of mysterious deer-like creature that something about it is just wrong. And there are some things that are specific that they will talk about as the signifying characteristics of a knot deer that we'll get into. But in general, it is just, you see a deer, it is not scared of humanity, it looks strange, and something just feels foreboding or weird about it. That is the that is the elevator pitch on what a knot deer is.
Okay, interesting. So my mind goes to a couple places immediately. First of all, there is a sort of, and we've talked at length about why this term is also sort of fraught with
ill definition, but it gives me Skinwalker vibes, at least like the way Skinwalker, as it has been sort of like rolled up into the pop culture, you know?
Yes.
But
that will come up later for sure.
okay. But it also makes me think of the fact that I think it's like Nori Park in Japan.
Yeah.
Is what I want to say is like these deer that will like come up to you and bow to you if you give them snacks.
Yeah, like totally not actually like trained deer, but because it's this like park that has this whole thing, the deer just know that if they play along, they'll get fed.
Right.
Yeah, that's
certain
totally fair.
Animals get used to. You know what? Animals that get used to the presence of humans, and are not in a place where they're typically like, you know, attacked or killed by humans. It honestly makes me think of like college campus squirrels. You know, like. They're pretty used to our presence. They don't fucking run away. They stare us down when we get near them.
At my old college, that was a big problem where squirrels would just like be running around and not move for cars, for anything, for like people. Like everyone kind of has an aggressive squirrel story if you went to the university that we went to. Yeah. So I could like there is this whole thing about you know, humankind's encroachment on nature and how it reacts to that is like the font for a lot of weird world stuff. And this could definitely fall into that if you want to like there's a lot of things this could fall into, and that's definitely one of them. So Jules, do you have any fun deer or not deer knowledge stories or anything? Do you have anything you want to
I was thinking about one time I went to a zoo and there were peacocks that were just like
just chilling,
coming up to people.
Oh wow!
Like they were like wandering around in this one area.
Okay,
and it was near where food was being purchased, and these peacocks wanted your food.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, there is no way that these peacocks should have this much access to me. It was like scary to me, but they were just used to people. They weren't like aggressive. They were just kind of looking at us like, are you going to give me a French fry or what?
Yeah.
And there were signs that were like, don't feed those guys.
Well,
and every kid within like a 100-foot radius is just immediately feeding them.
There were definitely teenage boys who were like nearby.
Let's give the peacock some fries.
Yeah.
You ever think how stupid it is that peacocks evolved to have these like big cumbersome display feathers?
I think it's dope as shit.
It's cool. It's just like, think about how like weirdly like not awesome that is for the peacock, you know? Oh, I have to lug around these big these fucking feathers all day, and nobody's even feeding me French fries.
They're kind of back heavy, so it's hard for them to move as well. Okay,
yeah,
I see your point now. I was like, I don't know. I think like, you know, peacocking is such an established term for like looking colorful and interesting that I struggle to see the downs. But if you're talking about, cool. I can see that.
I'm saying
look, they suffer for their fashion.
There you go. And they eat. They ate.
Beauty is pain.
Yes.
Yeah. Beauty is pain.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
In this case, it's not beauty that's pain. These things are okay. So they're not deer. Let's get back to the not deer.
Not peacocks
they're
either.
Like, I feel like I have to impress this thing. As far as I can tell, this thing has grown to a somewhat like it has its own Reddit. At this point, there's a not deer. There's like a not deer Reddit and a not deer stories Reddit. There's it trended on TikTok for a while because people were sharing video clips. You know that video clip that goes around all the time of the deer coming up to like a Ring camera at night and it just kind of stares at it.
Yeah.
Or like you open the door and those things got virally like thrown into the rise of the not deer trend in like 2020, and it went like this is such a wildly like modern phenomena in terms of it being popular that I was kind of surprised, honestly. Like it just came up really fast out of nowhere and took over for a minute online, and now is still an extant thing. You'll find a very active Reddit if you go and look. It's
maybe I will.
New not deer stories all the time. So, like I said, this thing supposedly lives in the Appalachian Mountains. It's not like a lot of people look at it more as a phenomenon than a specific creature, which leads people to think that there's some sort of like, you know, you brought up the skinwalkers thing. Like there are people that think of it being like that, where it's a spirit possessing an animal, and that's why it's acting weird, and looking weird. And other people, of course, think it's just like a strange type of deer or something. There are other explanations, but it is just, this is the first cryptid that is hard to explain because it is just a deer that has something wrong with it that makes it scary. So it is only like the quantification of this creature is that it looks weird. That's it.
It's very like internet trendy type creepy creature thing to me. It just like, I'm curious if there's like any hard and fast lore, or if there's just a bunch of stories of people being like, this deer wasn't right, you know, or what?
Oh, Kyle, you'll find that it's basically just the latter until you start to dig into where the term not deer comes from, which I have a whole thing on, but we'll get into that in a little bit because let's start with just some stories and the spooky fun stuff about this strange creature before we get in. Yeah.
How different do you think that these episodes go now that you guys have done about 1,200 of them? What number episode is this?
389.
It's 1,202. It's really funny to listen to you guys sometimes when I'm on now compared to when the first time that I was on.
Yeah.
Where it's like you just call each other's shots so easily. It's just like, it's so funny watching one of you be like, so there's this creature. Oh, so is it like this? Yeah, it's pretty much like that.
We like, okay, let me put it this way. We've been doing research and stuff in sort of the same internet circles and the same stuff for so long that all I was really saying with this is like, this smells like a certain type of internet story.
Yeah.
You know, like
I find it impressive. It's literally like Nile and I are rewatching House right now. And it's like watching someone try to tell House that someone has lupus. And he's just like, I know where you're going. Don't.
Yeah.
It's not lupus. It's just like sometimes you get to a point where you say a certain combination of words and you know what someone is going to say to it. And then you can extrapolate very easily because the two of you have been doing this for such a long time now.
And I knew that this one, like, there was a chance that I was going to say not deer, and Kyle was going to go, oh, yeah, I know everything about that because I'm on the internet. And I was hoping that wasn't going to happen because that makes the episodes a little more difficult to, like, have the reveals happen. But I knew that was a thing.
You knew it was a risk.
A very modern internet trend.
Yeah.
And you are big on the internet culture shit.
I am. So. But
this guy was on TikTok so much that he had to get off because he was going to turn into a furry or something.
Or something.
Something like that.
I feel like I've told the story of why I left TikTok, but on this podcast. But no, for real though, like I was being handed some content about conspiracy theories on TikTok that
I know
made me very upset.
Nile sees so much fucked up shit anywhere on the internet.
Yeah.
There are so many times when Nile is looking for something totally innocuous and like Amazon shows him fucked up shit. Every streaming service that we're on recommends some really fucked up shit to us.
Yeah.
Like my life is fucking littered with such fucked up like right-wing documentaries get suggested to me and like even my TikTok will show me shit that's like who's that guy on YouTube? This weird thing, the countdowns of
like
weird shit,
all-time conspiracies
top
type stuff. Top 5.
What was really strange about this deer is that it wasn't a deer.
Yeah,
number 5.
This
yeah,
deer
exactly.
is not really a deer. This
and I get that shit now. And it's like it's just from living here.
Yeah.
See, the biggest thing in that for me is being both a fan of All Elite Wrestling and the faction The Elite, and also being on conspiracy Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime I'm scrolling and just see
Figure
the
out which
capitalized
elite.
words The Elite, I just then have to like read a bunch more stuff about what this account is to see what the fuck we're talking about.
Especially because the way some people talk about the wrestlers is as unhinged as the conspiracy stuff.
Look, there are many people that want to call the Elite the deep state in AEW. And
they literally think that they're a fucking cabal running wrestling. It's insane.
So sometimes my timeline gets a little confusing.
What I do like about this though, about this not deer thing so far, is it's giving a flavor.
It's serving.
Giving.
Yeah, it's got this sort of flavor of like the kind of thing I would read on X in 2008. Like somebody's trying to come up with like a creepy new creature story.
It's Welcome to Night Vale Realness.
Yeah,
Kyle,
I'll say the name of another podcast.
I'm just gonna cut into a thing that I have later because there is someone. Okay, so let me just start here.
Okay,
I found the best resource for tracking the history of the not deer phenomenon. It's from a website called The Skeptical Inquirer.
Oh, yeah.
I want to give massive props to JD Sword, who wrote this article and did a lot of this research himself. It is all laid out perfectly.
Shouts out.
Shouts out. Because Kyle, you were wrong by 6 years.
Really? It's okay.
You can trace the not deer phenomenon in a lot of ways back to an X post in 2014.
Oh, okay. That's
and then in actuality, the not deer phenomenon starts in 2019.
I don't know if that's like a score and like a goal on my side of it, or if it's a condemnation of me.
Yeah. So Kyle, I don't know if you remember, if you would. So there's a post in 2014, posted on September 25th, 2014.
Yeah.
Entitled "Anon Goes Hiking."
Okay.
And this is the X post that is the origin for the entire phenomenon of not deer, as far as I can tell. It then, that circulated for quite a while, and then there was a Tumblr post that actually gave the name not deer to the phenomena, and brought up the kind of modern, like what the log line for it. It's an Appalachian creature. It's been around for hundreds of years. It came up through settlers, civilizations, and stuff. Like all of that stuff came from this kind of this Tumblr post from like the end of 2019, early 2020, and that's where the name came from, and everything else got built around it. So this is like I think technically the actual term mimetic fits here. This is like an actual meme cryptid.
Okay, yeah. I mean, so there's a handful of those which, like, let me tell you something. In fact, let's maybe now is the time to have this discussion. Okay. I've thought about whether or not to bring that kind of shit to this podcast at all.
Yeah.
Because
this one is like, this one has
you broke the seal.
You broke
this
the seal.
This one has an entry on multiple cryptid wikis.
Sure. But
so I figured it was qualifying.
You know what?
You broke the unspoken seal.
Yeah. This is not me actually being accusatory. I've genuinely meant to bring up to you. You know who else has an entry? Oh fuck! Now that I'm trying to think of it, I'm not going to remember. But it's the they usually use the like gray monster cryptid creature, the Dover demon. If you can remember that artwork, it's used also for this meme internet cryptid. The rake.
Yep. Okay.
And so I've thought to myself whether I want to bring something like the rake to the show, or whether I would save it for like my bonus show, my internet show.
I think that it could go either way. There is something that this episode made me think about a lot, about how, like, we talk about all the time how the like cryptids and paranormal events and conspiracies and stuff are a reflection of the anxieties and the fears of the age.
Mm-hmm.
And these kind of unreality, surreal things that are normal but just not quite right, I think is like a very modern feeling, or at least a very current feeling. I don't know if it was like, I'm not sure it's a new feeling, but it is something that a lot of people feel about, like, life just isn't quite as good as it used to be.
And that's the thing. Is like, this is not me chastising you at all. Just to be clear, like, I'm not.
No, I know.
I'm
not taking anything.
Okay, cool. Because
Jules says she's chastising.
Oh, okay.
Me. She raised one finger and nodded.
She's allowed.
And I took that. Yeah.
Well, no, it's interesting. I do think that there is like a good argument. I mean, I think there's a good argument for talking about this stuff on the show because it is like contemporary folklore.
If you do the rake, you have to do Jeff the Killer.
Which I know more about that than any human being reasonably should. by the way. Like,
I think I only vaguely remember.
It's an
Jeff the
image.
Killer.
There's got to be a lot of people who know way too much about that, right?
It's a spooky image that evolved an entire online mythos, a folklore surrounding it. And it's called Jeff the Killer. And the rake is the same way. Can I actually do a little lore drop?
Yeah, go ahead.
That this is creepypasta, right? Like, creepypasta is the contemporary folklore for the internet. Like, if fucking I'm not gonna come up the Snizzleback or
Pokemon
whatever.
Black.
Like the critters, the critters that the lumberjacks used to tell around campfires. It's
Fearsome Critters.
Fearsome Critters. It's the same idea, but now it's like through the filter of the internet, and it accumulates new lore each time it makes the rounds online, faster than a Fearsome Critter could accumulate like stories about it and like lore about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think that like it's like I have this whole thing that I like think about occasionally about how these stories are like hyper folklore. I'm sure somebody's already come up with an idea and like put it in a better way than I have. But like there is this, it's like, I mean, just think of Slender Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Slender Man started out as this like one single creepy post with an edited photo back in like 2006 on the Something Awful forums, and give it a couple years and it fucking explodes into so many things, so many different diverging pieces of lore and people and like coming up with different ideas. And it's like it moves so fast and it explodes to the point where it like breaks into reality. And then you have kids stabbing kids over Slender Man. Right.
Yeah.
And I find that very interesting. That's really all I'm getting at. And you know, maybe I Not Deer doesn't strike me as the kind of thing that would like suddenly explode a few years down the line, and like we'd have like the Not Deer movie and like kids, you know.
I mean, now we have the pool that kills you, so I actually think we might get a Not Deer movie.
Kills you?
Do you know about the pool? So it's a movie called Night Swim.
Oh,
it's the pool that kills you.
That's what that is. Okay, yeah, I have not. Is that based off of like a creepypasta or something?
I don't know.
I'm just saying if you can make a movie out of that, you can make a movie out of anything.
We have the beach that makes you old, the pool that kills you.
Yeah.
I think like
Nile said the pool that kills you while we were in the theater watching the trailer for it, and I laughed so hard I had to like hold my nose because there were people sitting in the row in front of us.
Look, the beach that makes you old broke my brain for that cadence.
Sure.
Where like if a horror movie concept can be described that way in that kind of cadence, it just like scratches an itch in my brain.
Yeah.
I understand.
So yeah, it's the pool that kills you.
I'm not saying that the concept isn't good enough for a horror movie. I'm just saying that like the phenomenon like growing to that level is like specifically from this is like, but hey, maybe Niall knows a bunch of shit that I don't know about this thing.
I mean, it's what the killing
Hey
of
Niall,
Sacred
do you
Deer
know a
was
bunch
about.
of shit that we don't know?
Do you know anything about like maybe Spielberg has some movie rights tied up with this? Or?
I think there's some closed door meetings
Okay.
I can't tell you about yet.
What if he went from West Side Story to The Fablemans to The Not Deer?
Yeah, what if what if Steven Spielberg's next step was to just make like a Blumhouse horror movie?
That'd be awesome.
That
Like-
actually would whip
I'd be
ass,
in.
and
Yeah.
it would be the best Blumhouse
I'd be
from
down.
the last decade.
Yeah, count me in.
I mean, come on. There is some competition because they've made some good movies, but like that would be fucking wild. Like
Hey, Invisible Man was good.
I know that's one of the ones I was thinking of. I haven't seen it, but you speak highly. I was thinking of what if he made the like Fantasy Island remake? Remember that thing that came out that
Yep.
doesn't exist?
Yep.
I have no idea
Was
what you're even
Mithrigan
talking about.
Blumhouse?
I think it
Oh,
technically was.
Did you
yeah.
guys see
That's pretty
Mithrigan?
I
We
like
did.
I like
Mithrigan.
was good.
Mithrigan more than I ever thought I would have. But I think I also told you that I had the most fucked up theater experience of my life watching that movie.
Oh, did you?
Okay. So I didn't tell you this. All right. So let me tell you how this went down actually.
I'm ready.
Me and some of my friends were like, we're going to go to this local art theater to go see The Whale because we all wanted to see it. We haven't seen it. Let's go check it out. And we go to this art theater I'm not naming names. You will not find me. And it's sold out. And we're like, fuck.
Okay.
What the fuck is even playing today? Well, guess what? It was the opening night of Mithrigan.
Oh God.
And
So you went on opening
we
night.
went on opening
Fantastic.
night.
Opening night for any
And
horror
it was
movie
just a
is going to be
fucking
wild, but especially
absolutely.
Mithrigan. I feel like.
Exactly. I mean, we should have known, right? but we went to go see it at just like, a generic movie theater that you could find in any place across the US. And
Sure.
wow, it was packed. I think we were one of maybe 6, like me and my 3 friends, we were the only other people there who were above the age of like 25.
Yep, because it was PG-13,
Yes,
right?
except for the older couple behind us who had to have been a bit older than us. The older couple was sort of spectator commentary the whole movie. Like, don't go in there, don't do that. Oh my God, she's gonna kill him. Stuff like that. A whole movie.
So good.
The people, the I'm assuming kids in front of us, were just talking the entire movie. Like genuinely just nonstop, like talking, laughing, joking the whole movie. And I remember looking over at one point, and this really ties everything back together. I remember looking down at one point at the kids that are in front of us, because they were being so fucking loud, and there were a bunch of them. And one of them has their phone out, and they are watching TikTok.
Yep.
While the movie's playing.
That's a classic now, which is so wild.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And they're watching TikTok. Even when I was that age, I would not have been doing that shit. I don't quite get it. They're watching TikTok on their phone, and then they hit the lock button, the lock screen, and I had to stifle my laughter because their lock screen was the image, exactly the one you're thinking of Dark Knight Joker. And I was like, this is fucking unbelievable. This is an unbelievable experience. But all that being said, I thought Mithrigan was hilarious and great, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And
when we saw the black phone in theaters, somebody took a FaceTime call right in front of us.
Yeah.
They were sitting and they just sat there and took it. They just a FaceTime. And the black phone is such a quiet, it's a horror movie, but it's so quiet and devastating. And this chick was just like loudly having a FaceTime conversation for like 10 minutes.
Yep.
And then when we got home that night, she was visiting somebody in our hall. She was like hanging out with people who lived at our building.
I really think
I saw her.
I don't think I don't know. That was just fucking crazy to me. So my lesson from that, don't go to an opening night of a horror movie ever. Mm-mm. And also,
I heard that Five Nights at Freddy's was
really
untenable.
Oh, I believe it. I 100%.
I heard Five Nights at Freddy's. People were like crying.
I don't want to sound like a curmudgeon, but like even when I was that age, I wasn't doing that shit. There were people who were disruptive during movies, and I always hated that. But like, this was like a new fucking level. I was pretty surprised. But maybe people don't go to movies to experience the movie anymore. Maybe it's just to be on TikTok. I don't know.
Yeah. There was straight up something trending today of someone with a full-blown laptop checking their email during a show.
Well, that's kind of funny.
Why are you at the
That's kind of you have a laptop with you. All right,
I forget what movie it was.
That's a good joke.
But it was like it just came out, and someone was just like, someone had a picture of someone with just a full 17-inch MacBook in front of them.
They brought their banker's lamp, and they're like,
Christ.
So. Speaking of wild behavior, let's talk about what the not deer does.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Some things. Here's just a list of some possible things that will differentiate a deer from a not deer. The most defining feature and most common thing is that the eyes are going to be on the front as opposed to on the side. So it has eyes like a predator instead of like prey.
Oh, I see. Okay,
sense.
yeah. That makes sense.
Isn't that also how you tell if Godzilla is evil in a movie?
You're 100% correct. The Godzilla the Protector versus Godzilla the metaphor for destruction. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It is not 100%, but largely you can look at it because the one version of the eyes is much more kind of cartoony and lifelike and human, whereas the other one is much more animalistic. So. I think it's flipped for that. Anyway, you also get the legs either bending the wrong way Or some people think that it has more length or joints than a normal leg. Thus, it is like kind of basically the legs are going to look kind of fucked up, most likely.
Like the deer in Adventure Time that takes its hooves off.
I believe that. Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Also, the actually, I think that was straight up a not deer reference. I think that was on the list of pop cultural references.
I believe it.
Also, it's going to have sharper and or more than normal teeth. That's going to be one of the most common features. Then some other kind of slightly less common but still pretty common features are shorter or non-existent tails, bigger or more cat-like ears. Sometimes the legs just look backwards.
Like the extra demon alien.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yet again, crossing over with some of the stuff that people look at with skinwalkers.
Yeah.
And that is a thing that will. Yeah.
There is just to be clear for people who don't understand. There's like an old British sci-fi horror movie called Extro about an alien, and in it, it's got these like backwards legs, and it's this creepy looking creature that's an alien. But it gets posted online as video evidence of a skinwalker if you're in some more credulous internet circles.
Yeah. Then also supposedly it has it is unafraid of confrontation. They also will say that sometimes the head is shaped more canine-like a wolf rather than a deer. But that's not all the time. Now, this is some of the less common features involve like some parts of the skull or face being exposed like flesh, instead of them like
having skin.
Basically, it's like eaten away. Yeah,
okay.
like it's like gnarled and
okay.
fucked
So
up. Because there's this story that one of the accounts of a not deer that I found was this guy shot the deer multiple times as it was coming towards him, and the bullets did nothing, and it just kept coming, and like the chunks were missing and everything.
Ooh.
And it just didn't react at all.
Okay.
And that is actually something that we'll talk about a little bit later as what this could actually be if you see something like this.
Okay.
There is some real life backup for this.
It's also like Godzilla.
I know, we're just gonna look, I'm on a big Toku streak right now, so I've been talking about Godzilla and Kamen Rider basically exclusively.
And Jules
for
has been
Jules. So now it gets referenced a lot in this house right now.
That could be another name for a show, honestly. It gets referenced. We could
Oh my god.
We're both guilty of
That's
this.
just look, okay, we have to put as much effort as we normally put into naming them into the concept for this show on our Patreon. So it'll just be something that we reference on this week on the Patreon. It's just an extra 20-minute conversation about whatever we talk about on the show that week.
That sounds good.
Fuck it. Yeah. So supposedly it also will sometimes make some strange loud breathing noises or some sort of low rumbling or cracking noise.
Oh, like Godzilla?
This sounds very Godzilla.
It also has an atomic breath sometimes that will switch sometimes from fire into a plasma form that is usually some kind of neon
shoots
color.
A big ray out of its mouth.
And Nile, is this not deer a metaphor for nuclear proliferation?
Are you sure that it's in the Appalachian Mountains and not in Tokyo Bay?
Through Tokyo? Yeah.
I will be. Look, Godzilla -1
Kyle
was excellent, and that's been on my mind, so I'm here for it.
Oh, one of my favorite movies of last year. I love Godzilla -1 dearly.
Not dearly.
Yeah, and also
I love it not dearly.
All right, fuck it. The episode's over. That's as good as it's gonna get. So, makes a bunch of weird noises. Sometimes it will. Another kind of feature that people talk about is if you see a deer standing on two legs. If it is upright in a two-legged position, that is something that you will sometimes come upon, and it will. The thing I always think about is if it's up on hind legs, does that mean it's gonna try to punch you with its hooves?
Well,
is this a Kangaroo Jack situation?
I think it might be.
We gotta come.
You know what? Yeah, do you guys know that that part of Kangaroo Jack is a dream sequence that is less than 2 minutes of the movie?
I've heard that.
Yes.
I've not seen the movie.
That kangaroo cannot talk. He does not wear boxing gloves. That is not. He doesn't wear sunglasses
unless you watch the cartoon, in which case I believe he does talk.
He's just a kangaroo.
Yeah, I've heard that movie skews less look, as a kid, I wanted to see the talking, rapping kangaroo.
Of course.
But like, I don't think that that's who that movie was aimed at, right? Like, it was aimed at like adults, right?
Well, that's
like,
the thing.
No,
the trailers
no.
absolutely were targeted at us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was people took their kids to see it, and then
It was about
just
like drug money or some shit, right? Like,
they were like in trouble somehow, and
They came across some stolen money from the nebulous mob, and were on the run to the outback in Australia to try to get away from
This
them,
is-
I believe, the plot of that
you know
movie.
what's really good about this moment right now? This is like not even the second time we've brought up Kangaroo Jack on this show.
No, and the fact that I like
how many times have I been on when it happened? Because I love to bring up Kangaroo Jack.
Probably more than once. I don't know, honestly.
Kangaroo Jack is just one of those things that like shouldn't
just
exist,
one of
and
those
we all
things.
lived through it,
Yeah.
so therefore it
Like
just
9/11.
sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard? have you ever heard Zach Galifianakis's bit about Kangaroo Jack?
Oh, maybe.
I don't know, maybe.
He just has a stand-up bit that's from his earlier stand-up about how that should have been him. And every time he sees Anthony Anderson in something, he's like, I could have had that if I had gotten
Could
Kangaroo
have that
Jack, because he
Kangaroo Jack
auditioned.
money.
Yeah.
And every time I see Anthony Anderson now, to this day, I go, that should have been Zach Galifianakis.
Oh man.
Because he should have been Kangaroo Jack.
Look, if you ever, that sounds like a fun thing to just go through the IMDb and think when, because there are certain roles that I'm pretty sure Anthony Anderson is in Malibu's Most Wanted.
That sounds right.
So imagining Zach Galifianakis in that role is very funny to me.
Imagine Anthony Anderson in The Hangover Part 2.
He's wearing the wolf shirt,
Yeah.
you know?
Kind of epic.
That's part 1. Anyway, who remembers Hangover Part 2? No, fucking nobody.
I don't. I barely remember the first part, to be honest.
So we've talked about what these things look like, what they can do, all these things. Let's get into some accounts, because that's the fun bit. This is just some. I've sourced accounts from various places. The first one is from phantomsandmonsters.com, Lon Strickler's site, who's a cryptozoologist. And it's about a 13-year-old girl in Goose Creek, South Carolina. And the account goes like this. I only ran into the knot deer once, and that was about a mile away from my own house on a gravel road that cut through some forests, fields, and goes right near Goose Creek, South Carolina. I couldn't have been more than 13 at the time. I walked the forests and deer paths all the time and had encountered everything from a swarm of bats to an angry fox, and even some drunk guys pissing on everything, but I had never felt threatened before. It was strange, because at first I felt what everyone else was describing, despite being somewhere I usually considered to be more my home than my own bedroom. The moon was high in the sky and swollen with light, so I could clearly see the forest around me, but the despising, spite-filled, watchful presence came from everywhere at once. I was on edge and only had a small knife with me, but I took it out. My entire soul was screaming that someone, not something, was there and they intended to hurt me. I wanted to run as fast as I could back to my house, but something stopped me from walking further or just sprinting off. Some sense that if I passed a specific point in the trees, I wouldn't survive. From that exact point on the trail, the knot deer slinked out from between a cluster of trees that should have been too close together for them to go through. What was different to me was it felt like it was part of the forest itself, and it had giant branching antlers, the kind you never see in real life because they get broken during mating season or the bucks get shot during hunting season. They seemed more like crowns or swords than anything else, and these monstrous antlers were getting bigger because this deer-like creature that in no way resembled a deer was shambling towards me. It was huge and majestic, similar to an animated drawing. My first instinct was to fight it. I was already palming my knife despite having a visceral vision of exactly how the fight would end, with me wishing I was dead. I was ready to die in that moment and hopefully take whatever this thing was with me. But something stopped me. I have no idea what it was exactly, but something reminded me of all my other experiences in these same woods and how every other time I wrapped myself in it. That no matter what strange thing had happened before, I had accepted it, and it in turn had tolerated me even if it couldn't accept me. And that's what I did. I mentioned earlier the knot deer felt like part of the forest, enraged and vicious, but still familiar. So I let it wrap around me. It was an insane experience, and to this day I don't think I felt that kind of purity of hatred that I did in that moment ever again. It was like someone had hijacked my emotions and just turned spite, disgust, hate, and rage up to 100%, and everything else down to zero, but only for a split second. The moment I felt that swell of emotions start to ebb, the not deer stopped coming towards me. We just looked at each other while I struggled to breathe after having every negative feeling shoved through me, and they left. Just hopped away into the trees and bushes and left me to continue my walk home. I did go out at night on the very same trail and just wandering through the forest many nights after that. That was the only time I ever saw the not deer, but it wasn't the last time I felt their eyes on me. Watching to see what I am, what I'm worth, if I've changed enough that I am no longer worthy of the life they let me keep. I used to be of the forest, and I think that kept me safe, but I've been living in city apartments for over 5 years now. If I go back, I doubt I would walk through those paths alone at night again. Yeah.
Interesting.
So this is a thing that is kind of a recurring theme with not deer stories, especially on like Reddits and stuff, is that there is this sense of like it being larger than life or some sort of almost deer god.
It almost sounded like it was like a force of nature itself.
Yeah.
The way they're describing it, which I find these kinds of stories sort of funny because it's like, it almost feels like we're telling on ourselves a little bit, you know, like, I think in reality, nature's kind of like, it's more of a human construct than we might realize. And I think the fact that we like hold it in this like fearful regard tells us that we know that our relationship to it is not great, right? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, like this great primal force of nature. It has like the purity of hatred and vengeance here might be nature being mad at us for destroying it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if we're talking about the spiritual sense, I know that you're not like.
But also, he's saying that this person is projecting that they know that.
I think this is a human thing,
and so they're creating this concept of a creature that would be like channeling that feeling.
Yeah. I think that hatred that we feel is just almost like reflecting back, like us reflecting back on ourselves. You know, like, like I think nature's pretty much neutral. Like I don't think about you at all. Basically, you know, like.
Yeah, exactly,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, it's Don Drapering us here. Have you
ever seen a deer with antlers like that?
No,
when they're overgrown.
I've never seen
not that big. No,
that shit is fucking scary.
Would love to.
Yeah,
I've seen like just like a normal dude.
They
with
get big.
Antlers.
Just a normal guy.
Just like a normal guy walking through a field, but like with antlers like that didn't get fucking shaved down. Yeah. It's kind of freaky looking.
Yeah, I bet. Like.
This is the type of thing that when I was a kid growing up, like living in the woods in Pennsylvania, I would have stayed up too late at night reading something like this and been
very
terrified
scared,
by it.
yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. I came across probably 4 different stories at least, mostly in comment sections, but on the Reddits and stuff as well, that are people saying, I heard about this not deer thing and read stories about it for hours, and then I thought I saw something outside my window, and I think it was a not deer. Like this is one of those things that it's so like I wrote this down as a potential topic months ago as like, oh, it's something that I'm seeing on social media, yada yada yada. New cryptid just dropped. That's interesting. And then when I started digging into it, it very quickly came around. That's like, oh, this is just like some part of the collective unconscious of the internet dealing with uncertainty. Like there's just this like weird, we're all psyching ourselves out, making something unknown to be scared of. Like it's interesting how quickly you can look online and peel back the exact starting point of this whole thing and then see how it has spread just by like unresearched like sharing of social media posts from that point forward. Like it's such a weird cultural mimetic thing that I find interesting.
I feel like deer are just also like so inescapable in so many parts of this country that it's such an easy thing to hang your hat on of like writing a thing about it looks just like a deer. Yeah. How many people do you know that see deer all the time? I like we live in a city, and on my walk to work, I see deer sometimes hanging out by the highway. It's like, it's so easy to see a deer in so many places in America that I feel like it's a really good one to reach for, to be like, I saw a deer, but it was fucked up.
And I also think that to add to that, people are very aware vaguely what a deer looks like by cartoons, by movies, whatever. But when you are faced with the reality, it's like no one is fully prepared for how big a moose is until they see one in real life. I think people are not fully prepared to see a deer at night by themselves in real life, and then will read malice and strangeness into it when in reality they're thinking of Bambi. You know?
And they do stop and stare at you in this very intense way because they don't know what you're gonna fucking do. And I think that is also really unsettling, especially if you are not in a car, and you're physically in a close proximity to a wild animal, and he's just staring at you. You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Do I move? Do I what do I do? What is this guy gonna do? He's bigger than me. I think that is a really easy thing to channel this sense of unease that you have into well, it would be silly if I was just scared of a deer. It'll be a deer, but he has really big pointy teeth.
It looked like a deer, but it wasn't. It was something much scarier and unknown.
I think there's also this thing where we just I don't know, there's certain types of fears that we just fall into the trap, even if we're not consciously thinking of this is the fear I want to tap into when I tell this story. And that's so much of this creepypasta stuff. I just remembered that I wrote a creepypasta many years ago that ended up on the creepypasta website. I'm not going to give
Hell
details.
yeah.
I'm not going to give details because I don't want anybody to find it because it would be embarrassing for me. But when I thought about what it was about, it is ultimately about that sort of fear of the not knowing the things out in nature. Ultimately, that's what it was about. And I wasn't when I sat down to write that when I was 15 years old, I wasn't yeah, I want to tap into that. I was just oh, what's a scary idea that's really unnerving? And then bam.
I was gonna say, so much stuff like that is also written by adolescent people who so much of the thing that is easiest for you to tap into at that age is fear of the unknown. You don't know shit. You're 15.
Yeah.
That was so much of the type of shit that I was writing when I was that age.
Yeah. You just fall into it.
So there are a bunch of other stories. You can keep reading accounts of not deer all fucking day if you want to, and most of them involve someone being in the woods late at night and seeing this deer comes out in front of them, or they see it off in the distance. It does something weird, looks strange, and then runs away. There aren't a lot of stories of people being attacked by them, or there's a difference in what they look like, what they do, but most of them follow that same vague format because it is a person being confronted with something that they initially think is a deer. They realize it's not, they don't know what it is, and then they get away. That is the basic thrust of 99% of every single encounter with a not deer that you will find online. So let's get into what it might, if we're going to take this at face value, that there is something that people are seeing and they're not just entirely made up. Let's get into what that could be, because it's somewhat interesting. There is a thing with deers called CWD, chronic wasting disease, which is also known as zombie deer syndrome.
I've heard of this.
This is an actual illness that deers can get. That is basically it eats away at their flesh. They literally just waste away, and they're still living, so they're wandering around. And so this literally, you will find deer that have this illness that have chunks of their skull are just shown. You can just see because the skin is just gone. This is also a possible source for Wendigo myths, if you want to look into that and think of it as because in reality, Wendigo is an actual cultural thing for a Native American population, but the cryptid form of Wendigo that people think of now, the bastardization of it, could very well be linked to chronic wasting disease as well. So this is the most likely actual cause for it. In terms of CWD, the first sign of the illness is supposedly the deer starts to have difficulty in movement, which could basically make a case for the deer moving strangely or the legs not looking correct. And then there's a change in behavior that comes next that includes listlessness, tremors, and nervousness. So yet again, could factor into those things. followed by excessive salivation and increased water intake. And then at some point, the deer entirely lose their fear of humanity and start to just be confused basically at all times. And then then the internal tissue will start to kind of erode away, which some people link to like the joints acting strangely or the legs being backwards. And so like sometimes limbs will just be moving in different directions than they're supposed to. And then other people, there's also just like open lesions that will form after that. And that's where people think like extra eyes or strange stuff on the face. Like, so basically, if you look through the symptoms and progression of chronic wasting disease, you can track about 8 out of 10 symptoms for being a not deer. The rest of them you can, liken to just being, tricks of memory and stuff like that if you want to, or just being afraid. An embellishment. So if there is a realistic thing that is happening, that people are seeing these strange phenomenons in the woods, it is most likely deer that are infected with chronic wasting disease, and you should avoid them. Do not touch them. I don't know if it's transmissible to humans, but it's better just to stay the fuck away.
What year did you say that this was popularized on the internet?
2020.
Okay.
But it came out in like
Didn't you say an earlier
2014.
year than that at first?
The original text post that doesn't mention not deer, but is kind of the origin of phenomena, is 2014.
Okay. And what year was Brian Fuller's Hannibal on TV?
Oh.
And what year did the Guillermo del Toro
Interesting.
produced Antlers movie come out?
That was like 2019.
And
That was
what
advertised
year-
before
That was-
the pandemic, came out after the
What
pandemic.
year did The Deer Hunter come out?
1970 something.
And what
Yeah.
year did they begin publication on Sweet
Wait, are you talking
Tooth?
about the movie or the band? Because the band
movie.
was active throughout the mid 2000s
Right.
and 2010s.
And what year did the video game Dear God come out on Steam?
Oh God, that one I forget.
And
I like being able to get an approximation, but that
what
one lost.
year did
What the fuck was I looking up? We've said so many
Hannibal.
things. Hannibal. Thank you.
And what year did Paul McCartney write Dear Prudence?
Hannibal ran from 2013 to 2015.
2013.
Wow, okay,
2013.
interesting.
Hmm.
So maybe the antlers. All right.
Big creepy deer man on that show, right?
Yeah,
That's true.
I didn't watch that shit, but I'm aware.
I did watch that shit, and you're right. So yeah, that's actually interesting.
That show popularized that imagery in a lot of circles on the internet. I feel like that was a huge thing that went around, was that like silhouette of the deer man. People were making art and wearing shirts and shit with that on it everywhere I went.
I never watched
Yeah.
that one, but I know what you're talking about. And that's how
It's really
successful
good.
it's that imagery was pervasive. Like the fact that I
Yeah.
know about that. What year did that one European horror movie come out with the deer god thing in it? The Ritual.
That's like 2013 or something, wasn't it?
The Ritual, yeah.
Wasn't that
I think it's
around
I think it's around 2015,
that was
maybe.
around the Hannibal
All right,
time. I
I'm
think.
beginning to
Closer to Hannibal than 2020.
beginning to put some connections together here. I think. I don't know.
I
We're
think
figuring
deer.
it out.
I think deer were having a bit of a cultural moment in the mid 2010s.
Deer
Did
had a bit
anybody
of a
let
renaissance.
deer know
Yeah.
about that?
You can't, that is a reference that only you and I will get.
I know.
So they're having a bit of a renaissance. I had a coworker for a long time that I was friends with, and we were talking one day, and he just turned to me and went, "Tobey Maguire, he's having a bit of a renaissance."
And this was not during Tobey Maguire's Renaissance.
No,
okay?
this was pre-Babylon. This was post everything else Tobey Maguire did. And I was like, really? What? Like,
This
I
was
must,
like in
I must have missed
2017,
something.
literally.
What's he been doing? And he
Spider-Man.
came up with like Secretariat.
Yeah.
And like movies that were like a
my
decade old at
God.
that point. And I was like, and I think he said like Pleasantville or some shit. It was just like, what are you talking? No,
It's a bit of a renaissance.
A little
so
bit of
yeah,
a
that's
renaissance.
that's become a poll here. Yeah, so yeah, deer were having a bit of a renaissance in 2014 when they decided to invade both Hannibal and Tumblr. Actually, here's the thing: the not deer was named on Tumblr. So this
That makes sense.
like
That
it all
is
fits.
exactly the type of fucking
Yeah.
name Tumblr would.
Oh,
assign to a thing
the
like
not
that.
deer was unalived by a very scary guy.
So I will
That's not even what I meant, but yeah, I mean, wig, I guess.
I will give credit to Tumblr user Willow the Witch, who coined the term "not deer" in 2019.
Is that the person who
replying
was
to a-
stealing bones from graves all those years ago?
Oh God, I have no idea.
I don't remember their username. I was thinking it's a very Tumblr thing, as in like, much deer, very wow.
Oh yeah, that
Oh,
too.
yeah.
I was thinking maybe they anthropomorphize this thing and make it the Tumblr sexy man of the year.
Yeah.
Maybe we
could
have a
be.
deer man be a spooky deer man.
I think
The
Yeah, I think that would be
danger
great.
is part of the allure, right? But
Yeah.
also
Mhm.
very sexy and tall and thin and sexy.
yeah. So the original post was a reply to an anonymous user asking a question. What do you mean that's not a deer in the mountains near you? To which the poster replied,
How bad
anyone
may
who spends
be."
a decent Anyone who spends a decent amount of time in Appalachia knows the not deer, and goes on to describe more or less what I'd call a folk cryptid. Everyone has their story about it. They're all somewhat similar. You're in a car at night in a rural, heavily wooded area and probably a bit lost. It's not wildly uncommon to see an opossum crossing the road. See blips of little animals with your headlights. You see a deer, so you or your friends go, "Oh, deer," and slow down in case it leaps in front of you. Then you see it more clearly. There's just something wrong about it. There's something about its eyes. You feel your stomach get heavy like a rock, the hair on your neck raise. You sense intelligence that you shouldn't. It doesn't move like a deer. It moves like a, oh God, what is that thing? Whatever that thing is, it's not a deer and we need to leave. You hit the gas and get the hell out of there. So that's the post that birthed the not deer.
It does strike me that there is another reason to be like fearful of deer in like the forests of around the United States. I mean, Appalachia, sure, but like I get freaked out. I freak myself out driving around to my parents' house late at night because it's surrounded by forest. And my sister has had her car totaled by a deer that has jumped in front of it, because deer are fucking stupid and they will jump in front of your goddamn car. Like, I mean, we literally have the phrase deer in the headlights. Like they will straight up just like let you run into them, or they will run straight into your car themselves. And that is got me on edge with deer, I must admit.
That makes perfect sense. Like, that is the thing. Like, deer are actually dangerous, so there is like a fear to that. Yeah, I don't want to run into a deer at night. So whether it's a deer or not deer, I don't really want to do that at all. You know?
Right. I agree.
So a couple last things before we wrap this up, because I just think they're interesting. I was digging in because I was trying to find if there was precedent, you know? And people were trying to like point to different things for where not deer pre-existed 2019. And they went and were digging through, I don't know if you've ever been on Google's Ngram viewer.
You ever been on Google?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever been on Google?
Oh,
you seen
yeah.
this shit?
Well, this is basically like search result histories, but for books and like usages of different, you can search terms and all of the historical texts they've, that are uploaded to this thing. It'll search through them and look for that kind of stuff. And they found like spikes in the 1800s and stuff. And so I was combing through these trying to find what it was. And it's straight up because they just searched the words not deer. So you're getting stuff where it was describing a town called Deer Park. And it said not Deer Park 2 words, but Deer
Yeah.
Park 1 word. And so it was all stuff like that. I combed through like pages of these things, and it was all just like census data, ecological reports on the deer population, where it'll be like the ecology of this area is under threat not by bears, not deer. And so like it is, this thing, not deer was not a term before 2019 in a way that I can find anywhere. This was not a phenomenon that people talked about. People will try to make it seem older than it is by referencing Appalachian legends, which is just vague enough that most people will take that at face value. It's not true. Like there are some reports of like weird deer-like creatures and stuff, but it never was this phenomenon. This is a modern thing. And let's see, what was the... Oh, and then the last thing, let's talk a little bit about people will try to link this to skinwalkers and various other Native American folkloric creatures. And like it's just not true. Like that's another thing that people will bring up that to try to like tie this new internet phenomenon to this old thing to like kind of wave away criticism of it, and like people not believing in it. Oh, it's like skinwalkers. No, it's not. It's like your weird understanding of skinwalkers that you got on Tumblr. Like it's not, they're not actually the same thing. A skinwalker is like an evil spirit that is taken into a beast and it's like reanimating this flesh and stuff. Like it's also a sacred concept. Like it's not your like fun little cryptid. It's just not. It's not a cryptid. And so like, yeah, they looked through. He talked to J.D. Sword, who wrote this fantastic article. Talked to both Appalachian folklorists and Native American folklorists, and there is absolutely no tie to anything for the not deer like that anyone could find. So, yeah, people will try to say it's like skinwalkers. It's just not. It doesn't. It has no.
Which
no
is
precedent.
why
It's not. It's like Godzilla.
Yeah, it is like Godzilla.
Which, by the way, is why I said the pop culture idea of the skinwalker, not
Yeah.
the skinwalker. But, yeah, I mean, this does seem like the kind of thing that would be incorporated by the internet into that pop culture idea of skinwalkers or whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. There is one other disease that has similar stuff called epizootic hemorrhaging disease that also could be responsible for this. There's just a separate disease that it could also involve. But that is like, those are the main things that you're going to find if you dig into the world of the not deer. There are a bunch of fun stories. If you're just looking for creepy stories to tell around a campfire or whatever, not deer stories are kind of fun. It's a fun phenomenon. But there's not really a lot to back up any of it or anything to really dig into. It's just a internet creepypasta from like 2019 on. That's it.
It's got the perfect setup for all those, for the creepypasta stuff from, I mean, I was off by a couple of years, but like, I must assume that, because like by 2014 I was not reading 4chan stuff.
Yeah.
But I have to assume the tradition of creepypasta sharing and making up these internet folklore stories had to have kept going, I'm assuming.
Oh, it does.
So-
Yes. I that actually reminds me of a thing I forgot to mention. This also, I had to double check that this wasn't the origin of it. This is an SCP creature.
Oh, really?
There it is, like SCP 688 something, 6448, and that also seems to have come around approximately in December of 2021, as best as I can find out. So it isn't the origin of the not deer phenomenon, but it has kind of taken over a lot of it.
Followed up the not deer phenomenon from when it really started online to, because like SCP is another one of those things where like there's almost like a feedback loop between it and like the creepypasta stuff and the Reddit no sleep or whatever the fuck it's called these days. It's all essentially the same thing, I guess, just like you have a different sort of framing for an SCP, which for people who don't know, SCP is like, did you ever see Cabin in the Woods? It's that, but with internet scary stories, basically.
Yeah, it's user-generated organization from Cabin in the Woods.
SCP, I thought that was the chick from Sex and the City.
Oh, sorry. Is there a lady in Sex and the City named SCP?
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sarah Jessica
Parker
Yeah.
is married to Matthew Broderick.
Yeah. So that kind of is the not deer phenomenon.
I can't believe this is new to me, honestly. It's a little surprising for me.
It is kind of fun. Like if you just look up the hashtag on Tumblr or TikTok, it's kind of fun to scroll through them for a minute. But that's kind of the be all end all of it.
Just both of you do me a favor and close your eyes.
Okay.
And now picture a deer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now take that deer and picture if it was fucked up.
Oh, fuck.
See, that actually brings us into our big question very well. Thank you, Jules, for setting me up.
Kyle's
like
scared.
that.
I shook him.
That was very
shook him
scary.
Well, be ready to dive into that fear, Kyle, because for our big question this week, I want to ask, if you were to encounter a not deer that just has one distinguishing characteristic differentiating it from a regular deer, what change would be the most effectively terrifying for you?
Human penis.
Okay, you need to be more specific. Where and what size?
I mean, like where a deer penis would be, but like a very visibly human style penis. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be just an average typical
Just an
human
average.
penis.
Okay.
But like it's clearly attached to the deer. Like this is not a person in a deer suit with their penis sticking out. This is somehow a deer that has grown a human penis, and I can't imagine anything more terrifying than that.
Interesting. Okay. I think that's.
You know how Kyle said that people were projecting about
Wow.
nature?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I remember
Kyle's
saying
afraid
that.
of his own penis?
It's true.
Cockchain?
I can't look at it. I'm nude from the waist down, by the way.
Yeah. Kyle records nude from the waist down.
It's true.
Just from the waist
Yep.
down.
Yeah.
He's Winnie the Pooh in it every time.
Yeah, it's kind of the danger of accidentally having my penis on camera that really does it for me. So,
And he does have a leather seat that he's
and I
sitting
do
on,
have a leather
bare
seat
ass.
on.
Yeah.
That's actually it's like a faux leather sort of
Yeah.
situation here. Yeah,
It's what we call the office pleather.
I like the way it feels on my
You
cheek.
know, you know that place where the monk prayed in the same place
Yeah.
every day, so it like wore the spot into the floor.
Uh-huh.
That's right.
But it's got like Kyle's butt and balls print.
my butt and balls indentation. Yup.
They're worn into the chair.
I can.
Yeah.
Your audio is doing a good job of cutting out a lot of the laughter, but it's still kind of coming through a little bit. I can.
Oh, good.
Oh,
I'm
you'll hear it in
glad.
the recorded
I'm
version
laughing a
because
lot.
she peaked it. She peaked.
Oh, God.
Oh man. So yeah, that was both quicker and I didn't have any. I did not think of.
Well, I'm
of
just
my
one
answer to this
person.
question.
Everybody else can answer.
Yeah.
I forget what movie, what episode of Mystery Science Theater this is from, but there's one where Joel asks the bots what would be a scary, exaggerated body part. And I was about to just
really?
launch into quoting that
Yeah, go
at
ahead.
you. But I didn't know, like, I'm not going to take credit for Joel Hodgson's great work.
Oh, that's
Oh,
fine.
do it.
You
He's
But
not
he-
listening.
he goes, what if he had just one really big nostril filled with red, matted hair?
Oh God, that is pretty bad.
So
that would
that's
be
my-
pretty bad. Yeah.
That's my answer.
Okay, this is just like sometimes the answers that come to me aren't the funny answers, but they're just like an actual thing that would be terrifying to me. What if the neck just started out of like the back? Like it just you just
Huh?
move the neck back by like a foot.
Ugh, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Like I said, not the funniest answer, but I think it would actually terrify me.
Oh,
So maybe he just like has like Homestar Runner shaved into his chest. That's what I'll
that'd
say.
be
Fuck
funny.
it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
oh, Jesus.
Oh man.
Um,
Yeah. So that we've been confronting some like there's this to me feel the way people treat not deer is so similar to the way people treat the phrase liminal space.
Oh yeah.
where it just like it's just weird. It's,
It's
anything,
that
weird.
makes
Just
you
call it
feel
that.
weird. Anything at
Yeah.
all. That's the definition of liminal, by the way.
Yeah.
Have you guys been
definitely.
receiving my emoji communications throughout this call?
No, I haven't been.
Oh, okay. Well,
You've been sending
okay.
emoji?
Yeah, maybe. It
Oh,
might
there
be
are
a feature.
reactions
It might
here.
be a feature that Zoom has that I discovered this this recording session.
Oh, there it is. Kyle's
guys-
looking shocked.
You
Okay.
guys are children.
Man, we're gonna have to start recording these once and putting them on a special Patreon here. No. Yeah, I think that'll probably. Do you want to take care of some business? I think that'll
Yeah.
probably wrap me up for
Yeah,
the
I
week.
think I'm ready.
All right. So if you want to follow us on social media, you can follow us on Twitter at IGW Podcast,
You can follow us on Facebook.com/It Gets Weird Podcast.
and we're on all your favorite podcatchers from Google Play to Apple Podcast to Spotify. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're probably there.
It Gets Weird Podcast at gmail.com. Email us, why don't you? Maybe we'll read it on the show. Who knows? Patreon.com/It Gets Weird. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, you get access to It Gets Weird TV, where every other week, Nile and I are talking about some sort of weird TV show. Right now, we are in season 2 of The X-Files, so check that out. At the $5 tier, you get another bonus show that comes out in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. So you're getting bonus content every single week. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you get access to the Discord where we're hanging out, chatting about all kinds of shit like spooky cryptids and UFOs. And then we also have a $1 tier, which you don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, I like your show. Thanks for doing what you do. Here's $1. Keep on keeping on. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast. And I think, Jules, do you have something you want to promote?
I don't have shit to promote.
Okay.
I've got nothing on any burners.
Okay.
I've got no fingers in any pies, but I am in the It Gets Weird Discord.
That's true.
So people should donate $2 and come and tell me that they love me.
That would be a good
That's
place.
what I'm here
That's
to
a good way
promote.
to do it. If you email that kind of shit to us, we're not going to tell her. But
No.
If-
all of your pleas and your offers for my hand in marriage have been being lost
Rejected
if you're emailing
through
them.
email.
You have to get on the Discord and tag me.
That's right. Okay. Sorry. I'm fading fast. I think that's it, Nile.
Go to
Yeah,
sleep,
go to sleep.
Kyle.
And thank you for joining us in this episode. It's always wonderful to have you on the show.
Go take your bare ass and get
okay,
it in bed.
I will.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting anything
So-
on it as I crawl into bed. It's going to stay
No, please don't.
uncovered.
You got to air that bad boy.
After
out.
sitting on this chair, you bet.
Yeah. Doesn't breathe. All right. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. Tell all of your friends about It Gets Weird podcast. All of that fun nonsense. I've been Nile.
And I'm Kyle signing out.